Folks, good evening. My name is Diego Ochoa, Superintendent of the Hollister School District. I'll take my face covering down for just a second so you can see my face. Nice to see you all. It's 5 o'clock Friday, July 24th, and we're here with an awesome team of special educators in our school district. And I want to start by just letting them introduce themselves. I'll give an example of the introduction. So I have lived in Hollister for a couple of years. I have been an educator for 22 years. I have been a special educator for 22 years. I have a credential in special ed, and when I taught special education. So I'm very committed to educating children with special needs. And I have a child who goes to school here in the Hollister School District. He'll be a kindergartner, and two little ones who are a couple of years away. So I'm just excited to be with you all tonight, and I'll pass it on to my colleague here.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gwendolyn Bakirin. I'm the Director of Special Education. I've been in the field of education for 15 years now. This is my, I think, 12th year living in Hollister. This is where I've met my loved one and raised my family. This is my home. Just like, Diego, I've been in special education most of my teaching career. And I just love being with amazing staff, with our students with special needs. This is, the passion that I've lived, all these years. And it's good to be here and have this afternoon conversation with the families and the communities that we serve.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Mai Cruz. I am one of the special education coordinators. I lived here in Hollister for about 12 years, going into 13, and I've been in special education for 16 years. Taught, special day class, resource, and then been a program specialist. And so I'm really, really happy to support everyone in the field of special education. So welcome to this talk.
Hi, I'm Julia Blankenship, and I've lived in Hollister for 19 years. And this is my third year teaching. I teach at R.O. Hardin in special day class, TK and Kinder. And I'm just excited to be here. I can't wait to hear what questions you guys might have, how we can help support each other. It's going to be an exciting year, guys. I'm excited.
It will.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I think everybody who's watching online, you can see my three colleagues are wearing the face shield. Our district, along with every other district in the county, actually received these face shields specifically for our special education program. So I want to thank our County Office of Education and our Superintendent, Chris Lamanto, for helping us with that. So we have basically enough face shields for every single student and teacher in the special education program. So we're excited about that. When I tried it on, it kind of made me feel like my head was just too big. I worried that it might not fit in the screen, so I thought I'll just continue to wear my cloth face covering. But throughout the course of the meeting, I'll try to keep my best to keep it on. I am a coffee person, so I'm going to be drinking my coffee during the meeting as well. And one of the things that I wanted to explain to the parents is why we're having this town hall and why we have another town hall next Friday and another town hall the Friday after that. And the reason is that the district is responsible for something called the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. And this new plan will require us as a school district to explain how we're going to make sure that students start the school year learning, and no matter what happens throughout the school year, if we come back, if we stay on distance learning, how we're going to always make sure that students are learning no matter if we're on campus or if we're distance learning. So what tonight's webinar and town hall is going to help us do is it's just going to help us understand what questions and what concerns parents have, because we really want parents to know that as a school district we listen to them and we hear what they say, and it affects what we plan and what programs we put in place. So with that, I'm gonna let our Director of Special Education, Ms. Bakiran, take us through a brief summary of the special education learning continuity plan. It'll just be a couple of minutes, and when we're done with that, we're gonna go straight to our parent questions. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Gwen.
All right. Well, first of all, before I begin to explain briefly on how our learning continuity plan for special education would look like, we would just like to thank all of our families, our special education staff, our administrators, the entire community for your support and understanding, and also for your resilience in facing and trying to overcome this crisis that we're facing right now, that we continue to face. And at the same time, continuing the learning of our students with special needs. We are so proud of how everyone worked together to ensure that our students with special needs have access to learning. And that remains our goal, our highest priority when we come back this school year, no matter how it looks like. Recently, we do have a mandate from our governor that we are going to be proceeding with full distance learning due to the fact that our local jurisdiction hasn't met the condition for us to reopen safely, to bring our students back in the classroom. And that's why we're having this conversation, just like what Superintendent Ochoa mentioned at the beginning. So I'm sure in your screen you're seeing this wonderful infographics, this wonderful visual on our distance learning, our special education learning continuity plan.
Can I ask a question? Did you create the graphic, or did Mrs. Cruz create the graphic?
And this wonderful graphic was developed by our media specialist, Mrs. Cruz, Ms. Maita Cruz.
Well, I do want to point that out, because one of the things that we should always do as educators is show children and show parents that we never stop learning.
True.
So a year ago, we would have created something that looked like a bunch of words on paper.
Right, just like
with
this.
nothing else, just words and words. And nobody would have read it and nobody would have understood it. So I just want to point out, our district has started to produce documents that look like this, that are easy to read and easy to understand. And I think it shouldn't go without saying, because I think it's an example of why our students and our parents should be willing and ready to learn as well.
And actually, this pandemic is really pushing us to learn more, right? Learn more so that our students will be able to, we can maximize their potential despite of this crisis.
Yeah.
But anyway, just like what I mentioned, this is a wonderful visual. It's very easy to read. It's very clear on how our special education would look like starting next school year. This plan will serve as our guide in providing high-quality instructional program in the most feasible way while adhering to the health and safety guidelines. In our program, it also includes our contingency plans, as we pivot in and out of distance learning. As you can see on the side, it kind of lay out, how our learning phase would look like. Phase one will be our full distance learning, and that's how we're going to proceed at the beginning of the school year. Once we see our local jurisdiction starting to meet, the requirements that would allow us to reopen safely, we're going to present, to you guys how our hybrid learning phase would look like. And then once it's completely safe, to open the community in general, to bring all the students back, for us to return back to the normal, right? How it looked like before, that's gonna be our phase 3, which is full in-person learning. in this plan, you would see how, those faces would look like, how would instruction would look like, what are the supports and accommodation will be provided for the students during each phase. Right now, those of you who are watching and those of you who will be watching this, probably tomorrow or probably tonight, your voice is very important. This plan will not be completed until we have your input captured. And I think this is one of the best things that our districts have been doing ever since, we have Superintendent Ochoa as our leader, is that he makes sure that your voices are heard, and not just heard, that your voices are part of developing this wonderful plan that we have for all of our students, and more so our students with special needs. I'm going to pass the floor to Mrs. Cruz to talk a little about what are our priorities with regard to our learning continuity plan.
All right, thank you, Gwen. So on the right side, you will see the educational opportunities. I mean, a lot of what is recommended here, the plan that we created was based from your input last spring when we did the survey. We also gathered input from our teachers and from our also classified staff. And so the 5 goals that we have right now, the first one is curriculum and instruction. So this is basically providing our students with standard-based curriculum, functional academics for moderate to severe students, best practices in teaching, instructional models, evidence-based instruction, and service delivery. And then the second one is progress monitoring. We need to know where our students at, especially, this fall. So we are going to, identify the needs through assessment, identify, the gaps in learning, and then also identify what instructional supports and monitor learning. And most importantly, look into the IEP goal progress for each student. The third one is equitable access to learning. So that means looking into the accommodations of our students, accommodations that they need in the classroom, and also accommodation that they need during distance learning. And then we're also going to be, looking into assistive technology and universal design for learning. And then the fourth one is social emotional learning. I know this is a big one for us because you know what, right now with this, pandemic that is going on and a lot of issues going on, around us, our student needs that emotional and social emotional support. And so we do have programs for our students. And the fifth one and the last one is engaging and supporting our staff and families because we value you and we value our staff. And so it is important for us to provide ongoing professional development for our staff, and that includes certificated and classified staff, and at the same time also ongoing parent workshops. All right?
Sounds really good when you guys explain.
I know, right?
I'm ready.
And we are going to provide each family, each staff with a solid learning continuity plan. Once we get more information, more input from you guys, we're putting things together and we're shooting for at least the first week of August that you'll expect to hear from us. Like we will be contacting you, sending you letters, giving you access to the plan. So you're on board, right? So we're all on the same page and making sure that our students have what they need for not just for them to mitigate that learning loss, but also for them to accelerate that learning, even in the midst of crisis. That's our goal in special education.
Yeah. And what I love about the plan is it is interconnected. Like we work not only, special education department, but we have, we work with our ed services, our student support, our tech, and even our facilities. So it's all like everyone is really hands-on.
Yeah. And then Julia, you, myself and Mrs. Karen and Mrs. Cruz, we, as administrators, we love this kind of, you can scale back away from that. We love this kind of create a visual, explain it, use a lot of words. It's been a couple of months since you've seen your students.
Yes.
So just let the parents know, what as a teacher when you think about distance learning and coming back together, what are some of the priorities for you when you get back together via Google Meet with your students?
My first priority is building that rapport with my relationships with my students, with my parents, because we are a team and we have got to be together to be successful. So that's my first thing. My second is, how do I give more? How do I do, because I did a lot of small groups, how do I get a whole group and 3 different small groups and the individual, because I need to maximize. These kids need as much as me as I can give them.
Yeah.
So I think that those are my 2 biggest. The parents, the children, we just need to be together.
Yeah.
And, the only way we're going to do that is to communicate.
Exactly. And I really appreciate Julia because I know you have been working like during this summer. I mean, I once like they called me and I was like, "Hey, I need this." And I was like, "Why are you working?" Like she's prepared for
She
for
did
her
not
students.
take a break.
No.
And I just want to announce to the entire Hollister community that she's one of our outstanding teachers here at district. So
Thank
we
you.
thank you, Julia, for your amazing work. And just like what Mai said, you never stop giving for our students with special needs, never stop reaching out to all our families as well.
Oh,
Thank you.
Well, and I think you guys, the support that we have received has been wonderful because the rug was pulled out from all of us, right? I'm a parent too, so that aspect, and
Yeah.
and for my class, and we had to learn things. There were huge gaps, and the support that we had from you guys, giving us the development days that we needed, answering questions late at night, the tools, like giving us the tools so that we can be successful, so our children can be successful, and that's the bottom line. That's what we want.
And I think it all is possible because we do talk to each other. In this district, when parents email the district, we actually listen. We actually don't just delete the email and move on with our lives. We actually pay attention. When a teacher reaches out to their principal, that principal calls the district and says, "Hey, this question came to us. Can we, what can we inform this teacher? How can we answer this question?" And I think it's where it takes us to tonight. To parents sent in about 40 email questions, and myself and Mrs. Blankenship and Mrs. Cruz and Mrs. Bakir, and we all have some answers that we put together. And I'm going to take us through these questions, and for each different one, I might ask one of you to just give a little bit more, talk a little bit more about it. And one of the things that came out as one of the first questions was, can we find a way to go over more from last year's content, basically? This particular parent is saying, my child is behind now in math. Julia, as a special education teacher, can you just explain how you'll make sure that the instruction you give your kids this year is based on this year? And what it means to kind of do that pre-assessment and find them where they are?
Yeah, the most important thing is that we're going to have to do that initial assessment and see where the students are at. And from there, that's when we can kind of go backwards, figure out where we need to be, and then move forward. And making sure that we're not moving too fast for some kiddos or not fast enough for others. So that's where our whole accommodating and making sure that we're fitting the needs of all students comes in. But first, we're going to have to do that assessment, which might take a little bit. It might take a little bit of time to truly get a good feel of where our students are at. And I also personally believe in asking questions with the parents.
Yeah.
Well, how's the summer been going? What have you been noticing? What have you been seeing? And then that way, if it's a new student, if it's somebody I've never met before, they might not give me much information. But a parent might be able to say, well, actually, they do know this, this, and this. And then we just have to build more rapport.
Awesome. I think one of our other parent questions was, in the spring, we had more socializing with the teacher and the class and not as much learning. So is there a way to have each subject scheduled? So what I want to share with parents is, especially at the middle school, our plan involves having scheduled subjects with times for each class every day. So that's a big change. At the elementary level, it's somewhat like that, where we have ideas to have English, writing, reading, math, all scheduled in. But like Julia said, at the elementary level, you really want to do small groups of students. So we'll have to fit that in. It won't be exactly as clear as the middle school schedule, but you'll see a great deal more of academic learning happening. And I don't want parents to forget, when this happened, we had 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
Almost none of our students had computers at home, so we had to spend 2 weeks getting computers to kids. We put the first 5 weeks, we did packets. We didn't have computers out there. And even when we did that, there were still hundreds of children that didn't have Wi-Fi access. So that's all changed now, because we'll have more than 3,000 computers in kids' households and more than 1,000 Wi-Fi hotspots.
Wow, that's
out.
amazing.
Yeah, so we're feeling good about that. Our next question is, why can't the teachers all run a regular day of instruction on Zoom? So I want to take a swing at this one if you're a baseball person. If you try to teach for 7 hours a day on Zoom, you will not make it to Friday. Forget 180 days.
Your children will not make it.
The kids will
They cannot
pass
do
out.
that.
They'll be like dropping like flies. So it's somewhere in between. It's not 7, but it's not 1 hour either.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in between. And actually at each grade level, it's different. So at kindergarten, it's probably 30 minutes, then small group, then a break, then 20 minutes, then small group, then 40. So, and then in middle school, it's more 40 minutes, it's a little bit cleaner the older the kids get. But I think that's just the easiest way to explain it, is that you can't do it for 7 hours.
Yeah. And it's different in special education too, right? And it varies from one special education program as the severity of, depending on the severity of the disability, right? For our severely cognitive, for those students with severe cognitive disabilities, we have more individualized instruction than of a whole group and small group, right? Just like what Julia mentioned, you would have, our students will have more small group instruction and more individualized instruction, meaning, one-to-one with the teacher, one-to-one with, the service provider or the para-educator. And Mike, can you explain on, how would that full day learning would look like? It doesn't necessarily mean direct instruction online.
Yeah, so it's a combination, again, in a special education classroom, and I would assume also the gen ed classroom, it is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. So it's a combination of live online instruction and recorded video or online resources, but in a whole group, small group, and individual setting. So you're going to get that schedule, before school starts.
Right, and sometimes a teacher might have the whole class online and say, for the next 15 minutes, we're all going to read this book together. But we're not going to do it online. You're just going to, you have your book there at home, you're going to read your book. So really, the child's not stuck to the computer screen the whole time. Because we don't want to raise a whole community of screenagers, they call them, kids who are just stuck to a screen, right? We want kids to still read books. We want kids to still get up and stretch and move around.
And then for our special education, students, we also are like, if they have student workbooks, we're going to be providing it to them so that, again, when the teacher is done with, the online direct instruction and they are to do their individual work, then they can do that at home. So we need to have that balance. I mean, I have 2 kids too, and I was like, I can't imagine having them sit, in front of the computer for 7 hours.
And then I just want to point out to the families at home, they're so comfortable. You guys you're doing such a good job. You guys are enjoying it. I told them before we got online that after this was over, they would tell me, Diego, can we do another one in September? Could we do it again in November, because we just like it so much. It is kind of nice to have a conversation about this stuff, because we
Right.
sometimes we don't really get to talk to each other this much sometimes, because we're sending emails and we're doing all that work. And for the families at home, we actually have our Director of Ed Services, Caroline Calero. She's sitting off just behind Julia. She's answering the phone calls that you're making. She's taking one right now. So when she finishes that phone call, she'll come over and hand it to Julia. And then any other call that comes in, that's what will happen. She'll come and walk it over to us. But I have an easy one for Mrs. Cruz or Mrs. McKieran, whoever wants to answer this. Our IEP is going to be reviewed and adjusted if the child is having a difficult time. That's an easy one, folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the best practice is to convene an IEP meeting to discuss the challenges and solutions to support the student. Now, if there are any changes that we need to make, then it is going to be an amended IEP.
Yep. And I have an easy one that I'll answer, which is, what are the district's expectations
Okay, so I'll pass this
for
one out.
how long online classes will be offered? So here's what we'll say. Your child will have a full day of school every day, 5 days a week. So in the spring, some days your child may have had 30 minutes or an hour. That's over. Starting on August 17th, your child's gonna have 5 hours, 5.5 hours, 6 hours, just depending on the day, they're gonna have a full day of instruction every day that they have school. So they'll have reading, they'll have writing, they'll have math, they'll have all of their core subjects, their ELD or English language development. And then for children with special needs, they'll also get services from their RSP teacher or their SDC teacher. So we're excited about that.
Or,
Mrs.
you know,
McCarron,
or-
you have a question?
Oh, yes, I do.
All right.
So what is the process when we experience technical difficulties? Will there be a live person helping us out, or do we need to do a help ticket?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the district has a process for parents and students and staff to ask for technology support. So every single day, the school district has 4 people who are devoted to helping anybody who has technology needs. So if I'm having a difficult time logging in, I submit that question within a matter of minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. There's somebody helping me.
Yeah.
It'll be an email response. Our district staff, I wanna commend Brandon Johnson, who's our lead technology specialist. He leads a team of people who have been creating videos.
District Special Education.
So
Town Hall.
when you're having a hard time logging in, you're actually gonna get a written explanation, but we're gonna send you a video that you can save and keep on your computer to go back and view anytime.
My son had a struggle over the spring, and he sent out the email, and within 20 minutes he had a response back, and I received a phone call because she's like, we need to fix this.
Yeah.
And he was up and going. So that support is fantastic. It's
They're
quick.
very responsive.
Yes.
Was there like a hotline that you called as a parent for that technical issue, or?
It was a tech support email,
Yeah.
and it was
We created one for each
each
school.
school.
Yeah.
RSJ
Yep.
tech support and Maze tech support, yeah, every school had their
Yep.
own tech support email, and we'll go through a similar process. Here's another question,
I see.
what are the teachers' expectations of the students? I love that one,
Yes.
we have somebody who can answer that for
Right.
us. This is your chance, set the bar high, Jill. Set the bar really high, we want them wearing a tuxedo, we want them staring right at the camera.
No PJs?
We want them ready to learn. We want them, already fed, or dressed. I personally, if they're in their PJs, I'm glad to see you. I'm happy. But let's already be fed. Let's be ready to learn. If we're having a struggle and we cannot make it, shoot me a quick email and say, hey, we're having a struggle. It might be an extra 5 minutes. Also, making sure that you have the materials provided, that they're all there, ready to go.
Parents.
I can't speak on behalf of everybody, but myself personally, I always made sure that the parents knew exactly what we were doing that day. So then that way they had all of the materials.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know, just let's get ready to learn. We only have that little bit of time in between everything, so we really gotta get going with it.
I love it. Be ready, be present,
Mm-hmm.
and let's learn. So I have a question for you here, which
And I
is,
could even put maybe some families.
how many students would a teacher, a special education teacher, have on distance learning?
So with regard to the grouping of our special education programs, our teachers definitely know best on how many will there be in a group and who will be in each group. Definitely, since our special education programs, they have smaller class size, expect that the smaller group would be, you know, between three to four, you know, students per group. It could be two, right, depending on the needs of your child. And that's why you have that I in the IEP, because their programming is highly individualized. And that's one of the major tasks that our teachers will be looking into when they come back, you know, in fall and prep their planning and their scheduling and looking at the individual needs of your child. But expect that the group would be smaller in size, between 2 to 4,
Yeah,
2 to 3 to
typically, yeah.
5, you know, and more individualized instruction, meaning direct one-to-one support for our severity, for those kids with severe disabilities.
Yeah, so if you have a child who has RSP services, they're gonna be in a class with 24 other kids. But sometimes the teacher's gonna do small group instruction, so sometimes with that general ed teacher, they'll only be with 4 other kids. On top of that, they'll have an RSP teacher who puts them in a separate small group of 3 or 4 or 5 kids. And then in your case, Mrs. Blankenship, you have a smaller number in general. But even then, you'll still do 1 or 2, or, you know, it just kind of depends on what the topic is, right?
Yeah, my plan, like I have a plan of a whole group in the mornings, let's start our morning up strong.
Yeah.
And then I might be meeting up with you guys twice, doing 2 small groups a day. And then that way we can get in more curriculum, and then there'll be the individual time as well. So definitely the small groups are gonna be the most important thing.
Exactly.
That way we can really work with your students. That's, yeah.
I like this next question. It's a hard one. Okay, so we're gonna
I'm like,
We're gonna
oh, what
flex
is
a
that
little bit
next
on this one.
question?
It's,
Attendance.
if I as a parent see that online classes are not working for my child, what support or resources or options will the district provide to these students?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, it's the same with, you know, the question that we just received over the phone.
Oh, awesome.
Just like, you know, what we mentioned about IEP, that I and the IEP making it more individualized to the needs of your child, right? We are encouraging the IEP team, which involves you, parents, to make sure to collaborate with each other, problem solve and discuss what more can we provide to your child to enable him to learn more during distance learning. And that's a very important thing. That's one thing that we are going to remind you parents and remind our staff that more than ever, this is the year that we're, you know, that it's calling us to really work collaboratively to help each other out for your child with special needs, right? And we're here to support you. We just want you guys to know that we are here for you and for your child. You know, that we're gonna be calling for that meeting for sure, right? Because we wanna make sure that we're also supporting you, you know, because you're there providing that direct instruction to your child as well, on top of the service providers and the teachers.
And I want to piggyback on that one because the question was, you know, what support or resources and options will the district offer for these students? Like, one of the goals that we have is curriculum and instruction, and under that curriculum, we offer a robust curriculum with access to general education curriculum and supplementary materials. Like for example, our supplementary materials include multi-sensory program like our Wilson Foundations or Wilson Just Words, Touch Math, to name a few. And we also have specialized curriculum programs like Unique. So we are going to meet where your child is, because we have, a variety of curriculums. Like, hey, maybe the teacher will say, you know what, based on my assessment, I don't think that this program works for this specific student. Then let's look into, what will work for your child.
And the program you just mentioned, the Unique Learning, that's actually for all of our students in the special day class. So, I mean, we're talking about very, very personalized, individualized, that kind of covers everything academically, that a teacher could say, this child is at this level in these subjects, but is at this level in this subject. So I'm gonna personalize even just that one subject.
Yes.
So it's just a really
Really
different,
excited.
it's a very different tool, because what we've asked our teachers to do for years and years is make photocopies, find things online, come up with things on your own. And after a while, you just can't come up with 15 different curriculums.
Exactly.
You need a system.
Yeah.
And so I feel good about the fact that we've spent money to buy these programs, because these children deserve a really
Absolutely.
strong curriculum.
Yeah.
And they haven't had one for years. So to have something that our teachers like Mrs. Blankenship and the other awesome special ed teachers in our district can use and say, man, now I really can come up with a strong plan for every child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that program because it's very level. Like, for example, there's like level 1, 2, and 3 based on, the student's independence. I mean, I would love to be a teacher right now, to be able to use that.
So the other question that I skipped over on the last page, and I'll answer it for the team, is my child's attendance required? And the answer is yes. Daily attendance is required, daily work completion is required. So we want kids online, and we want them doing their work every single day. And actually, our district is gonna be evaluated based on how much work students are completing, based on how much progress students are making. So we have a big plan of how we're gonna have, each school will have, in addition to the teachers at the school, somewhere between 6 to 10 other people that will be daily monitoring kids, calling parents to say, this is Blankenship, your little angel, your second grade boy is not doing his work. How can I help you get your second grade student to do his or her work? So it's gonna be really great. It's gonna be really awesome to have those systems in place for our students. Our next question is, would teachers be open to offering academic support to students who are behind or do not understand the topic of the day? And I think that just kind of speaks to what special education is all about. I mean, that's, you just kind of, the parent that sent us that email, thank you. It's just a description of what we do. We have students that are behind and need more assistance, and we provide them that assistance every single day.
And that's where that one-on-one, that individual time that we get with the students will really come into play. Like, that's where you can really dive a little bit deeper if they're not getting the topic, or if they're a little bit behind.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to kind of bridge that gap a little bit the best that we can with having that individual time.
All right, now I'm curious to know what the sticky says, because they're passing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of unclear.
Yeah, well, I'll never stop being a teacher, so when I see people passing papers, I'm on it like really quick.
My name's on the
every
board
single
now.
time. Yeah. So, I think with this question, and Ms. Calero, feel free to clarify for me, is what will be done for parents who have formally requested testing?
Is that
Special
testing?
ed testing.
Okay.
So,
I want to answer
let's
that.
say somebody sends a message already and says, I want my child tested. What happens?
And I'm so glad that this was asked. We did have pending initial assessment because of the pandemic, you know. Just to inform parents, when we do special education assessment, there are assessment tools that must be done in person. And that did not allow our pool of assessors to physically meet the students during the school closure back in spring, right? So our district is ready to formally assess these students in person. We're gonna be opening an assessment clinic in August. We already have a list of those students who were lined up to be assessed during the school closure, but due to the pandemic and due to the mandates of the state did not allow us to do so. We already have that list. Expect a call from our special education department with regard to scheduling, but definitely we would want those kids who were on that list for special education assessment to come in person before the reopening of school. So we're excited to announce that we will open our special education initial assessment clinic the first week of August, and expect a call from us with regard to scheduling.
So a week from Monday.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, you're right. I thought we're still in June.
We're not talking about something that's gonna happen in 3 months. We're talking about
In
a week from
a
now.
week,
or
yeah.
two
You know,
weeks from
and
now.
it
Alright.
felt like we're still in June. I can't believe
It's not.
Oh,
This,
wow.
to me, this year has been at least 9 years long. When I started this school year, I was 41, now I'm 50.
And our,
You don't look
our
like
parents
50.
can probably feel that too.
I'm with you.
I wanna follow up on another question that was asked, which is, why can't the hours of school be flexible? And there's a couple of good explanations for this. So the first thing is, we need children to have a schedule and to have a routine. And that means every child. It means the kindergarten child, it means the special education child, it means the 8th grader. Everybody needs a schedule. And we want it to look like our school schedule, because this pandemic is going to come to an end. It might be improved so much that we're back in school in November. It might improve enough that we come back to school in February. We're not sure when that happens. And when it does happen, we want children to move right into their classroom. So the scheduling is very important. And then the other reason is that the instruction itself is happening, and we want children to learn from their peers and their teacher. And when they're watching the video, that gets pushed down just a little bit. And we really do want kids to also be able to do their work in the evening, and we're gonna allow that too. So that parents who work can come home and work with their children in the evening as well.
That's us in this table.
Yeah, it is. And can I add something? I know for some of our parents, they want the flexibility, and we do have an option for that through the RISE Academy.
Yes.
So that is something that you can also, talk about in your family and also consider.
Yeah, and the RISE Academy, I'm glad you brought that up. The RISE Academy will be possible for children with special needs.
Yeah.
It is different because what will happen for general education students and special education students who are in the RISE Academy, they'll log into their program and they'll do work for 3 hours. They'll go in and they'll get English, math, science, history, they'll get all those subjects. And then once a week, their teacher will call them and make an appointment for an hour to check all their work. So that's the RISE Academy. Distance learning for the other 5,000 students in our district, they'll be getting somewhere between 3 and 5 hours of teaching a day. So that's 3 hours Monday, 3 hours Tuesday, 3 hours. And so RISE Academy is 1 meeting a week. So it's really more for a child and a family that wants something independent.
Exactly.
As opposed to, and maybe those families decide, even when schools reopen, I'm not putting my child back in school, I'm keeping my child on distance learning. So I think it's just two different things.
It is.
But I want families of children with special needs to know both programs are open for
They
you.
can access it as well.
The next question that I want to talk about is, how will children with speech services get the help they need? And I think It's very similar to any other service that we have, because we have occupational therapy, we have speech pathology, we have mental health counseling. So I think, to me, they're all kind of grouped together, and I just want to pass it over to you all to just, if my child has speech services, how will they get help?
That's a good question. So just like what Diego mentioned, our district offers a continuum of services for our students with special needs as stated in their IEP. So all of our services will be provided, just like what I mentioned at the beginning, we're gonna be proceeding with the phase one, which is full distance learning, whether your child with special needs is enrolled with the Rice Academy or enrolled with our typical learning phase, which is full distance learning. They will continue to provide services, however, it will be done remotely. Each of those child will be unique. And that's something that we're developing right now. We have this bill that is called SD 98 that was signed by Governor Newsom in June that discusses how what are the expectations for distance learning, what are the expectations for special education. This bill is now requiring us to amend IEPs and include a section about emergency condition. Such as what's gonna be the plan of the team, when you are faced again with another pandemic in the future, right? So we will be including that in that plan, and you will hear more from us as we develop this emergency condition that will be included in your child's IEP. But expect that services will continue to be provided.
Yeah,
It may
if they got 60 minutes a week before, they're gonna receive.
So remember that, that's a good question, Diego. So Diego asked if your child has 60 minutes, like for example, of speech services in a week. Will that look the same in distance learning? Remember that our IEP is basically developed with the expectation that it's gonna be provided in person. So this emergency condition is now requiring us to develop how would that services would look like if you're providing it remotely, right? What are more supports that you can embed in that IEP when you're providing it remotely, which would look different with the IEP that was agreed upon to be provided in person. It would look the same with how we provided it during the distance learning. It might be a tad lesser than, than 40 minutes or 50 minutes, because we know for a fact that our students with special needs have challenges when it comes to focusing, and much more focusing in front of the computer for that longer period of time. So that's gonna be an individual, conversation per team member, but definitely our district is coming up with what we call an emergency condition plan that we would be infusing or embedding in our IEPs for our next, for those who are having initial assessment, or for those who are having IEP annual meeting. So much more to follow.
We have a couple more phone call questions here.
All right, so why can't students' schedule be different to accommodate different learners? For example, some students do better with direct instruction in the morning, others may do better in the afternoon. Is this possible?
Yeah. It's not possible for a variety of reasons when we talk about the whole district. Because one thing we have to remember is that we have 300 amazing teachers, and they have the huge task of teaching all 28 kids or 16 kids in their class. But they also have to have a lunch break.
Right.
And they also have to have time to make phone calls to parents, and to answer emails, and to, as a special education teacher, Ms. Blankenship, for every single child in your class, you test every single child in your class multiple times every year on multiple different measures. Once every 3 years, you do a huge test for every child. Every time there's an IEP meeting, you have to explain where the child is in their speaking, reading, writing, math. life skills. So there's just so many other duties that you have. And so what we're trying to do by creating set, clear, predictable schedules is we're giving the whole community, all of our parents, the ability to know my child's lesson starts at 8:30 in the morning. That's when my child has to be ready. So it's a balance because we want to inform parents when things are happening, and we also need to give the teacher the ability to do all the parts of the teaching job, not just the time live on camera with the kids.
Well, and I think that there's a little bit, you know, when you're doing small groups, and if you have some kids that do better in the afternoon versus some that do better in the morning, we can make changes, right? And that's where the communication comes in. You know, so there can be a little bit of flexibility in that, but there needs to be that structure. We are in school from this time to this time. Now within that, there might be that flexibility, but this is our schedule for the day.
And the other reason is we have to take attendance. So just so parents know, every single day, every teacher in our district will take attendance the same way that we do when kids are physically with us. And that's a huge responsibility, and it requires us to have set, clear times that instruction needs to happen. And then you had one other question, or you have it here? Can I see it?
I just want to add on to what you guys mentioned. I love that you brought up, you know, the structure piece.
Right.
For our students with special needs, that structure and consistency and approach, they're highly important, right? As much as possible, we want to mimic on how that learning day would look like when school is in session and mimic it at the same way when we're providing remote instruction. And that's one of the things that we would really assist your child in learning more if they have that structure and consistency in place on a daily basis.
This is a fun question. I like this next question. It's how will individual schools contact parents to tell them how distance learning will work, what the schedules are, and how to log in, and how will we get this information? So this is an awesome question because it wraps in a lot of different things. So one big thing we want parents to understand is that we are working right now to finalize a plan that works for the entire district. So the learning plan for R.O. Hardin will be very similar to the timed learning plan for Sarah Vista and Lad Lane. The learning plan for Rancho and Mays will be very similar. The learning plan for 8th graders at Calaveras will be very similar to the learning plan for 8th graders at Gavilan Hills HDLA. So we're doing that because we want every single child to have the fair and appropriate and put together plan for them. And then what will happen is our principals actually report back to work a week from Monday. And parents are going to start to get emails from their principals with a lot of details specifically for their school. They'll start to get phone calls from their principals. And based on tonight's huge success with this town hall, our principals will actually hold events like this for their school. So, you know, your school is an example. You'll have your principal, you'll have your assistant principal, and you'll have 2 teachers sitting around the table like this, answering questions from just R.O. Hardin parents.
That's awesome.
That gets sent to just R.O. Hardin families. That comes back Sarah Vista, Lad Lane, Sunny Slope, and just on, so we can continue to connect. Because what happens on a normal school day is 250 parents come to campus, they walk right up to their teacher's classroom, they ask them 3 or 4 questions. We can't do that anymore.
Right.
And we're not gonna do that in August. So events like the one tonight are basically our chance to connect with those families. And we do have our Director of Ed Services off to the right here, and she's taking one more phone call. It's gonna be our last phone call for the night. And I wanted to give the 3 of you an opportunity to give the parents you know, you're actually all parents too, so you're on the other side of the computer screen, you know what it's like to be a parent. Ms. Blankenship, you told me you have two
Yes.
that are school aged. One.
Yeah.
One. So they have 4. I have 5. So I have a lot of. I have a lot more white hairs too. And I want you all to have an opportunity to just give them a message. Give them a message of what do you want them to take away from tonight? What do you want them to know for the next 20 days until we reopen school? And then I'll wrap it up.
All right. You don't want to answer that question first.
I'll answer it when I give my last. I want to build up the excitement to know what the question is.
We just want you guys to know that we're ready. We are ready to teach your child with special needs, and we are committed to providing a high quality program, not just this school year, but in the years to come. This wonderful team of administrators and educators that Superintendent Ochoa picked, from the time that he was hired, basically. We all have that commitment to not just to come up with a plan, but to implement it and to train our staff. And this time, more than ever, I've been with the district for such a long time. This is the first time that I have parents coming to me and just saying that, wow, this is the first time that we felt that we're really part of the team.
Yeah.
We even have conversation with parents asking us administrators, asking the teachers about personal stuff about their family, because they felt like we are a family member too. And we want to continue that relationship. This pandemic will not stop us or serve as a barrier in making sure that your child is successful. But we want you to be successful too in supporting your child. And we're just so excited because we are going to provide more parent workshops. Just like what Maya mentioned, we're not just training our staff, but we're training you because you're a valuable member of the IEP team. We're in this together, and we encourage you to always visit our website. I'm sure we're all now glued to social media, glued to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, right? They're not in TikTok yet, but our superintendent is committed to providing you updates on a consistent basis. And we just want you to be constantly updated. Always go to our website, so our social media. Our special education has a dedicated webpage. Miss Maida Cruz, our special education coordinator and our specialist as well when it comes to all of these technology. We are going to revamp our webpage once again. We did infuse a lot of distance learning during COVID. We're still in COVID, but we want to make it more robust for you guys, more user-friendly. So expect more changes in our website to provide you with the tools that you need. Know that we are here for you. We're in this together. We are a team.
Yeah, we are partners, we're a team, but at the same time, I also just want to share it with the parents, like give yourselves grace too. You know what, every day I am a working parent, my husband is a working parent too, and we have 2 children at home like learning. And I know there are days that are crazy, there are days like where you feel like, oh my gosh, it's victory today. And so, but the most important thing is give yourselves grace. It's gonna be okay. We're a team here. We're gonna support you. And I want to leave with this quote: "We are strong as we are united." So more information about that. I know.
#SpedUnite.
Exactly.
I'm just excited. I know that it's crazy. It's been crazy since March. I'm excited to get back with the students. I'm excited to build more of an enriching curriculum and really dive into what I want to do, which is teach your kids. And I want to thank you because it was hard for you. It was hard for us. And your flexibility and an understanding and knowing like, hey, I'm so sorry I couldn't get on Zoom, or the packet didn't have this paper. And the fact that that the parents understand that we are in this learning process too. So thank you. I just want to say thank you, and I'm excited. I can't wait. It's going to be different, but it's going to be great. It really is.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, we got a question that we're gonna address here. So, will schools do drive up to pick up materials? And the answer is yes. Every school will have a system where parents can come up to the school to pick up books, to pick up supplies, to pick up materials. We still have lots of Wi-Fi hotspots that we're gonna get out to families. Some families only got one device and we needed 3, so we're gonna get devices to those families.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so expect to start hearing from your schools. That will all happen in the first 2 weeks of August. And I want to end with a message to our families. It's actually two parts of the same message. The first part is, if you haven't had your kids in another school district, you might not realize this, but the people that work in this school district are amazing people. The teachers that teach in our special education program are incredible, and our principals are incredible. The people that give speech services, that do our school psychology, that do our occupational therapy, the staff members that work with our children who have visual impairments and deaf and hard of hearing, all of our instructional assistants and paraprofessionals, and then our special ed administrators and coordinators, they're amazing. And I just feel very blessed to work with all of them. It turns out they're pretty good on TV too, so that's really nice to see.
We try.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to tell parents and the community is, we're not going to stop being creative and stop being curious and stop learning, because we came into this profession because we get joy from learning. When we learn how to do something new, when we take something that's broken and we fix it, when we take something that isn't as good as it could be and make it better, we get excited. And we're going to continue to do that, whether your children are in school with us every day or whether they're learning through distance learning. And it's just going to be a great year. So we're ready. We're excited that you were with us tonight. We thank you for making those phone calls. And we'll be here again next Friday. It'll be myself and our Director of Educational Services. And we'll have Principal Scott Wilbur from AAA with us, and we'll have a teacher representative with us next week as well. So we're excited about that, and thank you everybody for being with us tonight.
Everyone.
I'm
Have a
gonna
good
walk off
evening.
camera and go turn off the live stream, so thank you, everybody. So
Thank you.
fun.
So fun.
Yeah, thank
We'll
you,
do this
Caroline.
again so soon.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. This was good. This was.
This is awesome.
I know,